Hey folks, welcome to another edition of Tinnitist TV. Today I am lucky enough to be talking to the one and only Ellen Foley. I think it's fair to say that Foley's career essentially begins with three words: stop right there. That was her opening line as the object of Meat Loaf's romantic desire in the Jim Steinman classic Paradise by the Dashboard Light, the song that introduced the St. Louis singer and actress to the world back in the 70s. Of course, it didn't stop right there for Ellen Foley. She went on to have a long career in music, on TV, and in the movies. She released 3 albums of her own back in the 70s and 80s, including her sophomore album Spirit of St. Louis, which was produced by her then boyfriend Mick Jones of The Clash and featured songs written and performed by the band. In addition to that, she's sung for Ian Hunter, Blue Öyster Cult, and a long list of other artists. Later, she focused on her acting career, where she appeared in everything from the sitcom Night Court to the Tom Cruise movie Cocktail, before backing away from the business to raise a family. More recently, Foley's made a welcome return to music. In 2013, she released her first album in 3 decades, the appropriately titled About Time. And this year, she finally followed it up with the album Fighting Words, a disc that reconnects her with the guitar-driven rock of her past. As she prepares to return to the stage for her first New York show in 6 years, and hopefully some other dates besides that, Foley zoomed in from her house to talk to me about her old days, her current album, and how she more or less pioneered the rock and roll cameo appearance. Here's how it went. All right. Hey, first of all, that is a great self-portrait you've got behind you. Where did that come from?
That's a great little story. For my first album, I did a video for What's the Matter, Baby? One of the, What's the Matter, Baby? That we did. It was a cover of a Timmy Euro song, R&B, and did a video. And I guess there were stills, and some kind person took a still and colored it in that way. And it's kind of my Andy Warhol, I think I love it. So I had it framed, and of course I put myself strategically in front of it so you would comment on it just like you did.
Well done.
Thank you. So biz, baby.
So the Fighting Words is out. The reviews are in. The dust has settled. You've had time to exhale and take it all in. So how did the experience go in comparison to what you expected?
I guess 8 years ago, my same team, which means Paul Foglino, who's the composer of all the music, and I put out an album called About Time. And it kind of came and went because neither of us had any sort of understanding of how things work now. But then we put this out, and we connected with Randy Haker, who I know you've been in touch with, who's a publicist. And it made all the difference in the world because he just worked so hard. And we got, tremendous amount of press and reviews, just for the most part, really positive and great. And that's made all the difference. The crazy thing is that, I think there's about 40,000 people on my Spotify, but we probably sold like 3 records,
Well, yeah, that's how it works nowadays.
Yeah, there seems to be a big disparity there, but we're ready to do a gig next Friday at a club called Bowery Electric here in the city. So I'm all getting ready for that. It's a really big deal. I haven't performed in New York for 6 years. And but I'm excited. I really promoted the idea of getting out there and playing the record because I love it. And along with material I have always sung. It's going to be good. We have a great band.
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask how you were going to approach it this time in terms of a set list. Are you still going to include some of those, your older things and some things you're kind of known for?
Yes,
Okay.
From the first record, We Belong to the Night, Night Out, which I haven't really done much, but it makes sense because Bowery Electric is is a block away from where CBGB's was.
Mm-hmm.
And this song Night Out a guy named Philip Rambo wrote it. It's from the point of view of a girl in a club, you know, kind of lonely and wanting to be a part of this new thing. And I'm gonna reach out to him, but I'm pretty sure it was written about CBGB's. So that, you know, all that stuff. From my second record, I'm gonna do a song I've never performed. I don't know why. It's called Boys in the Attic, and it was written by Ellie Greenwich.
Yes.
So it has the girl group vibe to it, which I've always gravitated towards. And, you know, stuff from the last record, covers that I've always done, things like Boys of Summer, Sway by the Rolling Stones. So it's a pretty cool set. It's going to be good.
I love the fact that you were performing Should I Stay or Should I Go? That to me seemed just so wonderfully appropriate.
Yeah, no more. I don't do that anymore.
All right, fair enough. Are you nervous about this show?
Oh, yes. You know, with me, once it gets there, I'm fine. Mm-hmm. But for this time, I'm kind of in a fugue state. I just keep screwing everything up, you know, whether it's nerves or just like losing my mind, I'm not sure. But once you get in there, you know, rehearsing, put your nose to the ground, getting up on the stage, it's, you know, the nerves kind of go away, actually.
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah. Well, you've been doing it long enough.
Yes.
Exactly. So on a creative level, going back to the album, was making these records, these newer records, as creatively satisfying as back in the day, or more so, maybe even?
Maybe with maturity and being with somebody who is just kind of a regular guy and sort of considers himself, you know, a folk song, you know, a troubadour or something. I mean, you have, you know, big shot people, especially with the original, the first record, Ian Hunter and Mick Ronson. It was like, you know, scaling Olympus in a way. And but for the most part, that was fun and comfortable, sort of until it came to the mixing phase, when, you know, I naturally wanted all the vocals to be louder. And, you know, there was a lot of reverb because it was very much of a kind of Phil Spector sound, or off the Steinman, you know, Meat Loaf thing, a lot of echo. And I was like, make me louder, put me in front. And Ian kicked me out of the mixing session. I mean, you know, believe me, that would not happen now.
Well, yeah, that's because I was kind of wondering back in the day whether you got as much, you know, respect and input and say into the proceedings as you probably deserve, given, you know, both the people you were dealing with on some levels, and also it, you know, you being a young woman in the music business in the 70s.
Right. Know? Well, I think what I just said about that particular time with it, but we had a good, you know, it was a fun thing. I mean, this is just my memory. Maybe I block out bad stuff, but I just remember it, and certainly I deferred to them because this was my first album. The only record I ever sang on before was Paradise by the Dashboard Light. Right. This was only my second experience in a recording studio. So, but you know, whatever Ian has in terms of, you know, being bossy, or, you know, I'm the grown up here. Ronson sort of counteracted because he definitely wasn't a grown up. You know, he was just like, yeah, well, let's do it this way. Well, I think, you know, very gentle. So that's why they were such a great team. I mean, they're a great team because they were both great musicians, and as much as I say that about Ronson, he really knew his way around the studio, and it was a great experience. I had such a wonderful time doing that.
But then, you know, with Spirit of St. Louis, especially though, it seems like you're kind of plunged into that whole Clash scene. I mean, that album is basically side 7 of Sandinista, and you know, those songs to me, I mean, they almost sound like something that belongs in an off-Broadway musical or something, given all of
Yes,
Summer's narrative lyrics and all that. That must have been a
right.
really weird experience.
It was, yeah, I don't mean to ever put it down, but it
No.
it was not the move for me at that time. But I was really caught up and intimidated by and all of a sudden, plucked, from my world into this super, super intense world with people who had just been on the cover of Rolling Stone and Mick Jones, was very like, oh, that fucking Meat Loaf rock and roll. No, you don't want to do that. So you're Edith Piaf. So that's what I had to be, Edith Piaf, when I really was a rock chick. I could do it, but whether I did it great is in question. I always say I think it's a wonderful record in terms of the amazing creativity. I mean, the sounds, the production, the lyrics, crazy, the death of the psychoanalyst of Salvador Dali, the amazing images and everything. And the weakest link of that record, I always say, is me, because I don't get to do my big thing, which is what I'm best at.
Well, and then, yeah, but by the same token, I don't know, it's such a strange and wonderful album. I mean, you are, obviously the only person really who's had the Clash as their backing band. There is something to be said.
I guess so. Somebody wrote something. They said Ellen Foley, the only person who has worked with Stephen Sondheim and the Clash,
Yeah.
right?
Well, exactly.
Which, I have a genius club. It's Steinman, Sondheim. The Clash, the Ian and those guys. I mean, I've just been very lucky, but it's like, it's not luck necessarily. These people were attracted to my talent. So,
Mm-hmm. And then on another breath, you mentioned Ellie Greenwich and Vinny. Is it said? Do you say Poncia? Is that how it's pronounced?
Poncia with an S.
I wasn't sure if it was the okay.
Yeah,
so again, you've got some, you've got some major names there, and it kind of goes back again to, you mentioned the girl group thing. There's a lot of that coming out, obviously, with Ellie.
Yeah, with Ellie. I mean, we did a great cover of Johnny and Mary off on that album. It was just bizarre because it was such a reactionary thing where, oh my God, we're not going to do that again. So it was a pop record. It was pop. Anyway, here we are.
So have you been listening to those albums a little more now to sort of,
Yeah,
with the gig coming up?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I have had, at one point somebody who interviewed me just in terms of the spirit of St. Louis. So I went back and listened to that whole thing, and some of it with a big eye roll, like the big, there's that big bolero at the end, and it's so dramatic. I'm like, yeah, okay. But and I listened to Another Breath, and the ones I found off that record were Boys in the Attic and Johnny and Mary, which we were maybe going to do, but we decided not to. But Boys in the Attic is such a gem. There are things you find that you just have never performed and you don't know why. So, and Night Out, I did Night Out after the first album, hadn't done it since. And that's a fantastic, atmospheric, once again, telling a great story.
So overall, going back and sort of, reviewing your past has been a pleasant experience, not a high school. Okay, good. Well,
yes.
Good. Glad to hear it.
Yes, it has.
What was it, acting for you first or music first, or were they kind of all in one?
All in one. I mean, I grew up, in schools doing musicals, and then in college, I was in college out in St. Louis where I grew up. I was in a band, and I came to New York with my then boyfriend, who was a New Yorker. We came here. We had this band called Big Jive. We did a few gigs in the city, and I would say we played in Atlantic City before there was Atlantic City. Before the casinos, and the name Who Dare Not Be Spoken built his casino and all that. So it was in the dark winter of Atlantic City. But then at the same time, I was, auditioning for stuff, studying acting, studying voice, doing stuff off Broadway. I ended up in this, oh my God, this corny review called Tuxedo Junction. And we played up in the Catskills. And at the same time, I would go home and do gigs with the Big Jive. So yeah, it's always, it always had been for a long time, both. And then I just stopped, after that third album, and went and did a lot of great stuff, did theater, TV, film, excuse me, got married, had kids. And then in 2008 is when I met Paul Foglino. Actually, he wrote the lyrics and music for a play down at La Mama Theater here. And so that's when, I think since 2008 is when I've just been concentrating on music.
Right. The reason I asked, though, about the acting is because listening to your stuff again, it suddenly struck me that, especially the first two, your sort of breakout things with Meat Loaf on Paradise and Ian Hunter on We Gotta Get Out of Here, they're both little character parts. They're like little, little acting roles to it.
Oh, yeah.
Extent.
And I'm finding that again, rehearsing, that finding all those moments and characters again in doing them live. And they definitely are, and that's fun on stage because, you can set up the scene for the audience and play out the story. And then you just rock and roll, and like the song "I'm Just Happy to Be Here," which was the duet with Carla. I do it, but a girl named Emma Craig is singing background, so we're doing it together. But with that song, with Carla, it certainly had a big time backstory to it. Those are the kind of songs that I choose, and those are the kind of songs that Paul is writing because I can't just, he would never write, and I could never sing just banal,
You don't write much, though, do you?
I don't write much. I just believe in playing my strengths. I'm a singer and I'm an interpreter, and that's what I do.
But in terms of especially those first two songs where we were talking about, I get, you were way ahead of your time in a sense with those, because nowadays there are artists who that is their whole career is guesting on other people's songs. And there weren't really a lot of people doing that back in the day when you were doing it. You had this unique sort of position,
Yeah, true. Well, I never saw the Meat Loaf thing as guesting. I was on but in terms of, the Ian thing and singing on Hitsville, UK.
Right.
I sang with the Blue Öyster Cult, things like that. Yeah, now every other song is so-and-so featuring so-and-so, right?
Yeah, you should be getting royalties for all of those.
For that concept.
That's
was
right.
my big idea.
That's right. So you mentioned, that you kind of blocked out the bad stuff, but again, in the 70s, being who you were in the music business in New York, we hear so many things, so many stories about what goes on today. I can't imagine what was going on back then. Was it a pretty, I don't know, were there bad things going on that you were victim to or witness to?
I wouldn't say so, because I was lucky to be protected by Steve Popovich, who I was on. The label was Epic Records, but he had his own imprint, Cleveland International, and he was like the king of R&R guys, and had his own label, and I was, you were protected under that guise, but I knew that like some of my records in the States, I didn't have a top 40 record, which I think I could have, because there wasn't the money there. And I think, having hits was about money. Maybe it is again. Everything is so about, image and who spends the most money. And so I don't know if there's like a payola kind of situation. I mean, I guess, there is top 40 radio, but there's
Yeah.
nothing that I even know about, because it's a whole other genre kind of music that I'm not that
What do you listen to?
acquainted with. What do I listen to? In the car, let's see. What I listen to, it's sort of funny. I listen to Howard Stern. I listen to Golden Oldies Radio,
Uh-huh.
which are radio shows from like the 1940s and 50s. The Whistler, and these sci-fi things, them talking about what it'll be like in 1991. But
Uh-huh.
there's Jack Benny and Burns and Allen and
Wow, you're going way back.
I know, crazy. Somehow that gives me comfort, even though I wasn't alive then. But
Yeah.
and then I listened to classic radio stations. I listened to sort of the I guess it's soft rock kind of stuff, but things like a lot of, I love to listen to Fleetwood Mac, and on my own, when I listen to my own, it's the Rolling Stones first and foremost. Listen to the Stones, listen to R&B stuff, listen to some modern pop stuff. Things like, I love Joni Mitchell, I love Crosby, Stills and Nash. It's, what do I know? But I guess it's embarrassing. I listen to Adele. I love to listen to Firework by Katy Perry.
Nothing wrong with any of those. That's good.
Yeah.
So after you did the third album, how come we never got a fourth album? What was going on there that you went more into acting and kind of left music behind?
Oh, the third album. Yeah, it was just kind of a disappointing experience. And I felt like I was in kind of a netherworld, because, Popovich was there, but he wasn't even able to battle the powers that were. And I was like, I did some gigs. I had a band. I remember at one point I opened for ELO, which was bizarre. And then I was like, I don't feel like having all this responsibility. It just doesn't feel right for me right now. So I left it, and then had great luck. I mean, was in movies like Fatal Attraction, Married to the Mob. What else was I in? I don't even know. Oh, the thing with Tom Cruise. Worked
Cocktail.
on Broadway.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cocktail. Was on Broadway. Did the Into the Woods with the Sondheim. And then, that took me up to 1990 when I got married, and
Right.
I, had 2 kids and did that for a long time.
Was there always sort of a part of you that missed the rock and roll, being on stage, that part of your personality?
I think in the beginning, when I first had a baby, well, when you have babies, you feel kind of isolated and you feel alone. And I felt like, oh, my career, but then after a while, I'm like, oh crap, I don't want to do that. Like if I ever had to think about auditioning or anything, that was anathema to me. It still is. I'm never auditioning for anybody again. I'm doing my thing. This time I do want to be in charge. Yeah.
So what brought you back to it eventually? I mean, was it just meeting who you met, or what?
Well, yeah, I did this show, and it felt really right, because I think the songs in it, it was called Hercules in High Suburbia. It was a modern retelling of the Hercules myth, and it was about Paul. He wrote the songs for that show. And then we got together, we were like, oh, let's have a band. Let's be a Stones cover band. And then he woke up one day and he said, wait a minute, I'm a songwriter. So we started writing songs. We put a band together. We played a lot with a band, and we played in the city a lot. This place called Lakeside Lounge. There were a few of the years there that were really fun doing that, going up and culminating in that album. But then, in the last, let's see, probably around starting 2014, I started going over to Europe a lot. I'm actually going again in January. Hopefully, it's been postponed now 3 times because of the pandemic. Doing shows in primarily Holland and the Netherlands, because I had a #1 record, an album, over there off that first record, and they still want to so. And for a few years, I was doing that a couple of times a year, and I just kind of left the scene behind. And then Paul just came up, and he, in a sneaky way, like, gosh, 2018 or something, started writing these songs, started bringing them to me, doing demos, and which eventually became the material for the record.
So are we going to wait 8 years for another album?
I hate to tell. Come see me in the home.
Well, that's why I'm kind of saying you gotta work fast there, lady.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, it would be fun, to fool around with the model. Who knows? Put out some songs. Right now, I think as of next week, I have a video coming out with Carla DeVito of that song, "I'm Just Happy to Be Here." And it's so cool because I did my part in New York. She's in Oregon. She did her part. Maybe just do fun things like that, presenting, using other media.
Yeah, well, and you've always, you've never shied away from tossing a cover in here and there. A covers album would certainly streamline the process in terms of not having to wait for another 10 songs to be written,
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think I might steal it.
It's all yours.
Okay.
I don't think I came up with the idea of the covers album, but hey, you can thank me for it.
It'll be on the album.
There you go. So, hey, when did your kids first realize that their mom was a rock star?
Gosh, I think at school, the parents maybe were like, they had played, oh, look, this is Tim's mom, this is Henry's mom, listen to this, on the radio. But around here, I have gold records and all stuff like that. But, then they heard me saying, I don't know, I'm not terribly clear on that, but that's all I can imagine.
But ultimately, then you're just mom, right? It's still,
Yeah. But it's cool now because I feel like I have something to prove to them because I've always been just mom. So like all this great press I get, I send it to them and I say, yeah, look at this.
You're doing it backwards, right?
Yeah.
You're supposed to be bragging about them.
Well, I did a lot of that. Now it's got to turn around.
Perfect.